Hey guys, it's me, the gaming geezer, Frank Fry, back again. This time I am going to start a series on historically based fantasy campaigns, RPGs. Now I know that sounds like a contradiction in terms or perhaps an oxymoron, but it really isn't. Um, the idea here is to use famous epics from history or famous times from history as a basis for a fantasy campaign. To get your own D&D campaign going on, we'll be also using D&D 5th edition as well as the D&D Monster Manual. Okay, let's start with the basics. There are, in my opinion and in my experience, three types of historically based or historical RPGs. And I've talked about this before, but let me reiterate. Number one, the gritty, real, our historical background. This is or was the world of the Sumerians or the Carolinians or whatever. Everything is pretty much as it was in reality. There may be some magic and some fantastic elements, but by and large, these are pretty much downplayed and secondary. Okay. Next comes the what I call the legendary. Um, this is more to my liking because now you have the player. To get back to the first one, and I should have added this. In the gritty reality, the player characters are every people. They could be young nobles, whatever, young lords, warriors, what have you. But they are really kind of just cogs in the machine. Uh, it takes a long time to grind it out and to make your character somebody outstanding. In a legendary campaign, you still have a lot of the background, only in this case, magic is real. Magic users are there. And they have a lot more impact on societies and cultures. And you are generally outstanding, you are young warriors with promise. You are just a number of different things depending on how your GM wants to run it. Oh, and the other realistic, the first one, the realistic one, historical campaign, there's only one race in there, humans. That's it. Nothing else. No tiefling bards or halfling paladins or what have you. Uh, in the legendary, depending upon the culture you use as a base point, yes, you have some fantastic races. Um, for example, uh, you could have you may call it Fey-blooded, meaning that somewhere along the line there was one of the Fey in the woodpile. What this means in D&D terms is you're a half elf with all of that goes with it. You are. Uh, I know in some cultures, like the Viking culture, they had somebody's at times was referred to as troll-blooded. Okay, this generally meant they were usually big, hulking, uh, kind of ugly looking. Apparently, very striking looking. There's something says you can't be. So I figured the closest thing that I saw in D&D handbook, a player's handbook, was a half orc. And why not? They don't all have to be green skinned chaotic monstrosities. And in fact, uh, for troll blooded, they look human. They're just slightly large and somewhat ugly humans. Nor do they have to be these chaotic evil entities. They can be whatever they want to be at any kind of alignment, just like everything else. I tend to like this a great deal. Uh, there's just enough flavor in there, and not only that, but these would also be very difficult to play. These would be limited. In fact, I would say, if you really want to just, you know, just do it randomly, you roll a d20, and on a 1 to 15, you're a human. On say 16 to say 18, you're a troll blood, and on 19 or 20, you're fey blooded. Now this could be important, especially in the next issue, magic. Who uses it? Who wields it? You know, and what type of magicians are they? Um, like for example, the fey blooded probably be sorcerers. You'd also be very rare. Uh, and how the society at large reacts to you, good question. It might make for some interesting playing. And then you have the third type is what I call the fantastical. This is the full-on fantasy. You name it, you can be it. You want to be a half elf, or you want to be a half elf uh, bard of the court of Charlemagne or whatever. Really, you can. There's all sorts of fantastic creatures around and about. The creature level for the legendary campaign is a little more restricted. You're just as likely to run into a large lumbering bear as you are to run into orcs or trolls. In fact, there may be some milieu where there are no orcs, there are no trolls per se. Uh, the whole 9 yards. In the fantastic setting, anything goes. Same with magic. Oh yeah. So basically, what you've got is the full-on fantasy campaign, and the third one with just basically the trappings of a historical time period. Okay, then the next thing up that's important. Now we've determined level. We've looked at the various races. Who can you be? Now we come to what can you be? Which is another very important consideration. What character classes are available? We're going to find that in a straight historical campaign, especially one without magic users, you're very limited. Very limited. In a legendary campaign, it spreads out more because, yes, we use magic. But still, probably something, that's going to be limited again, but not as badly. Oh, you'll have magic, and it takes special because this is legendary. And then with the full-on fantasy, the third type, who cares? The whole thing is open to you. The whole thing. But once again, you're working with historical trappings. So yes, you can be a hobbit bard, like the crazy Elvis clone in the book. Boy, that's bad-looking halfling. So that's really what that's what you make these decisions. Okay, and then you decide also not what era, what culture are you emulating? And that's the next one. What appeals to you? What would appeal to your friends? Well, let's take a period I'm quite familiar with, since I wargame in it a lot, and that is the Dark Ages, so-called. Or as I like to call it, early medieval, or post-Roman, whatever. let's say that you want to, just for the hell of it, let's say that you want to do build yours on the Viking model, since that's a popular TV show. They seem to be getting a lot more airplay, even if the football team does suck eggs. Um, Hope there aren't any Vikings fans watching this. You know, but you want to build it on the Vikings. Well, there's two things you can use. First of all, you can, if you can find them, old TSR brought out these not too long, a while back. I've got a couple more. These are historical uh, references. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, second edition. What I hold in my hand are the Celts and Charlemagne's Paladins. I happen to have the one for Vikings. I just can't lay my hands on it right now. But anyway, you have that. If you can get your hands on that, and TSR or Wizards now, I think, would do themselves a great favor if they were to reissue these for 5th edition. Clean them up. We have, these were written, I think, in the 80s or 90s. There's been a lot of new scholarship come out. Yeah. I think it would be great. Even so, the ones now uh, are, even if you can find them used, get them. They are well worth the money because they're going to save you a lot of trouble because they already do a lot of parsing. Otherwise, Google and Wikipedia are your friends. You find out about different, you say you want to look up Vikings, Viking culture, Viking society. Then you've got to make some decisions, as to, let's say, what the races are. Obviously, most of you all are going to be humans. And the Vikings, at least according to some legends, yes, they had female warriors, they had shield maidens. Just watch the series Vikings. Watch Lagertha, wife of Ragnar Lodbrok. Wow. That woman will slice and dice you like a Cuisinart. And she existed. I've read biographies of her, or, at least biographical sketches of her. So yes, this is going to be one of these times where if you would like to have, if you have, say, a woman who's playing, a woman player who says, I would like to play a shield maiden, cool, great. We can do this. Women were actually quite liberated in Viking society. They owned property. They could divorce their husbands and remarry. Um, they were merchants. They ran the steads, the farmsteads. Some of them even went out of Vikings. Some of them were merchants. So yeah, you can. And besides, if you're going to do a legendary level, doesn't really matter, you know. Uh, so this is kind of neat. So we say, okay, well, gender doesn't matter. Uh, you're human. The other two races, now the Vikings did believe in elves and trolls. So let's bring in the Fey-blooded or elf-blooded for the, for the half-elves, and the troll-blooded for the half-orcs. Now you've got some more choices. In terms of classes, it's easy to write the Vikings off as barbarians. They weren't. These were not brain dead, ignorant, you know. They had a culture. They had a societal structure. They farmed. The more you look through, you realize, no, we can just use standard. Now you can bring in the barbarian. Oh, there's a thought. Especially given that one of the barbarian classes or subclasses or what. It was the Berserker. Hey, imagine a troll-blooded barbarian Viking Berserker. I think if just let that ponder. You got a lot of other things you might want to consider, or you have to consider. What level of armor? Vikings never wore plate armor. The highest standard of armor was usually a mail shirt. You may have other, appropriate. Some of them may have had like lamellar armor if they served in the Varangian Guard, if they served the Emperor Byzantium. But take a long look at what a lot of the warriors wore, and a lot of times it's either leather or nothing. In fact, the lesser warriors were doing good if they could they had a helmet to protect their heads. And let's face it, when you're starting off as a first level, that's basically what you're going to be. And that's fine. You can work your way up. But that's basically an idea of how you do a historical setting. It does require research, and and the more research and the more little things you have going, the more things you can incorporate into the D&D 5th edition system or whatever system you're using, better off you are. Better off you are. Now, it is possible you may want to start players at a higher level. If you want, say, a veteran warrior, start them at 5th level. Oh, and in terms of magic users, the Vikings had a very interesting class, and I've spoken about it before, the Girdi. He was a warrior priest, basically. He could be a fighting cleric. He even has some aspects of a paladin. So you may want to give that some consideration. I'm not sure, how many powers he had, what kind of powers that they had or were reputed to have. I would say just, go with a butt-kicking cleric. More than likely a priest of Odin or a priest of Thor. There's a list of the pantheons in the back of the player's handbook, which is really easy to do. Just look it up and you've got it. It's laid out there for you. But like I said, you take this, so we've gone over the basics of what it takes, what you have to do, and I think, at least in my opinion, the payoff will always be, to me, fun. Okay? That's it for now, everybody. I guess I've gone on long enough. But just remember, as I always say, play games, have fun. See you later.